James Clear has built one of the biggest newsletters in the world.
The 321 newsletter.
Your newsletter is extremely inspiring, powerful.
With over 2 million subscribers.
And you got this newsletter with like 8 zillion people who subscribe and read your stuff, right?
Make a habit of reading his newsletter.
You might think it's because he wrote the best-selling book, Atomic Habits. Well, you'd be wrong. In this video, I'm going to break down his playbook and strategies so you can take these tactics and apply them to growing your own audience, whether it's building an email list, Twitter followers, YouTube subscribers, or any other platform. So to break down James Clear's playbook, we're going to look at it through the prism of 3 themes: consistency, value, and optimization. Let's jump into the breakdown. Now first, a quick bit of background.
James Clear is the author of the New York Times bestseller Atomic Habits,
which has sold over 10 million copies. He is also the creator of JamesClear.com, which has hundreds of articles he's published over the last decade about habits, productivity, and self-improvement. And he's the creator of the popular 321 newsletter. As I said at the top of the video, we're going to look at James's playbook through 3 tactics: consistency, value, and optimization. So let's start with consistency and go back 10 years to when James started JamesClear.com.
I write at JamesClear.com. I write about how to build better habits, improve performance, and generally live better.
James started writing about habits and productivity at JamesClear.com in 2012. But let's actually rewind 2 years earlier to 2010. James's main goal was to be an entrepreneur and start a business.
I really wanted to do this entrepreneurial thing.
In October of 2010, he launched James Clear Photography, selling prints of his photos, photography being a passion of his. He also launched The Credit Card Fly, a blog about credit card travel deals, The Remora Method, a course for launching a business, and Captions Free, an iPhone app to add captions to your photos. But none of these took off, partly because he didn't have an audience to market to.
I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I had these products, and I would launch them, and nobody cared. And I realized the problem is that I don't have an audience. I don't have anybody to market to.
In 2011, he launched his first semi-successful blog, Passive Panda.
When I started Passive Panda, I definitely was thinking more of like the passive income type of thing, but it evolved into all types of income.
Passive Panda saw some success. Within a year, the website had nearly 750,000 page views, and he built an email list of over 10,000 subscribers. But more importantly, the tactics James learned to grow Passive Panda would be vital to what he does next. In November of 2012, James goes all in on JamesClear.com, writing about habits and productivity, along with a heavy dose of health and fitness topics in the early years.
I started writing a blog to build an email list because I was like, I need to have an audience of people who I can go to when I'm ready to sell the next product.
He published 2 articles a week, Monday and Thursday. Each article had 3 criteria it had to meet for James to write about it. 1, something that's timeless or evergreen.
I try to write evergreen and timeless stuff.
If it's timeless and evergreen, then you have a longer period where it could become a hit.
The timelessness is even evident in the website design. There are no publish dates anywhere on any of his articles. 2, is it universal?
Everybody has habits. Everybody's trying to build good habits or break bad ones, even if they're not thinking about it like carefully. It's just kind of part of life.
And 3, is he genuinely interested in it?
If you're genuinely interested in it, that comes through in the writing.
This publishing consistency is what gives James the initial traction.
When I started building JamesClear.com, I wrote a new article every Monday and Thursday.
Those were usually like about 2,000 words.
The first year, James publishes 114 articles. Next year, 88. The one after that, 74.
I think that a lot of success online, people who are really successful, it comes from finding one thing that works and then repeating that one thing a million times.
It comes back to consistency. It comes back to doing small things well each day and then waking up again tomorrow and doing the same thing.
And that consistency is paying off.
Over 1 million people visit the site each month. There's over 400,000 subscribers on the weekly email newsletter. And it all came out of a simple writing habit.
Now this consistency is bringing traffic to his website, and I'll cover what tactics he used to convert that traffic into subscribers later in the video. So as James is consistently publishing, he notices a direct correlation to the amount of articles he puts out to the subscriber growth of his newsletter. James calls this the spectrum of repetitions.
So after 6 articles, I had 100 subscribers. After 23, 1,000. After 96, 34,000, 177, 100,000, 243, and so on. And every rep that I put in, every article that I published, was something that was moving me closer to the next outcome on that spectrum. The way that I like to think of it is that any outcome that you wish to achieve is just a point along the spectrum of repetitions. The more reps that you put in, the more likely you are to achieve that goal.
So I definitely agree with putting in the reps, but I would say that each rep is way more valuable when you're starting out than once you've had some growth. If we modeled out this growth trajectory, in order to hit 2 million subscribers, James would need to write over 1,500 articles. Now, prior to this talk, he had been writing about 80 articles a year. Guess how many he wrote after this talk? 10. That's right, 10 articles. And then the next year, he wrote 9. And the year after that, he only wrote 5. The consistency stopped. What happened? Atomic Habits. James was able to use this audience that he built in the first 3 years to get a book deal to write Atomic Habits. Now, he was writing the book. The articles that he was publishing, they took a lot of work.
I would spend somewhere between, the shortest amount of time I ever spent was like 8 hours on an article. Most of the time it was somewhere between like 15 and 20.
Wow.
And the really long ones would be like 30 or 40, but that was rare.
So writing Atomic Habits, plus now having kids, meant he didn't have the same 30 to 40 hours he could dedicate to publishing 2 articles a week. But like I said, earlier reps matter more than later reps, and because he put in the work and had over 300 published articles, which were evergreen and universal, the 2 criteria that he has, they became assets that kept working for him. As James would say, they compounded.
If you can do 1 or 2 things a day that are going to keep working for you in the long run, man, you end up like 2 or 3 or 5 years later and you just have this tidal wave of previous effort that is working for you.
And that is exactly what happened from those early years of work of James publishing 2 articles a week. If we look back at the chart, even though the number of articles published dropped, website visitors and subscribers continued to climb. Then, in 2019, things really started to pick up. It wasn't just Atomic Habits coming out at the end of 2018. James got back to publishing. But instead of going back to the time-consuming articles, he changed the format of the newsletter to something he could consistently stick with.
I restructured the newsletter so that I could do it in a couple hours, usually about 2 hours. So now I can just do it on one day. I just need one morning and I can do it in those 2 hours and it's done.
That's when the 321 newsletter was born.
It's 3 short ideas from me, 2 quotes from other people, and then 1 question to think about for the week.
With the new format of his newsletter that's able to be published consistently every Thursday, growth skyrockets, hitting 960,000 in 2020, 1.35 million in 2021, and finally 2 million in 2022. Also, that's about 700,000 new subscribers in just 1 year, which is insane. So, theme 1, consistency. Find a format you can consistently stick with and keep putting in the reps. Next playbook theme, provide value.
I do try to operate with this core value of always give value before you ask for value.
Try to focus purely on the customer or the client or the reader, right? So I try to just give stuff that's as useful as possible for them.
Remember James's first 2 criteria for articles, evergreen and universal. If he was writing about personal experiences and not universal topics that help and provide value to the reader, then the website would have never taken off the way that it did. And the same idea with the 321 newsletter. Its stated goal is to be the most wisdom per word of any newsletter on the web. And because it's short, it has a very high value per minute reading.
I want people to have this feeling that it's like, oh my gosh, I get so much out of this. Of course, I would want to open the next email, or of course, I would want to buy the book. It's like such an obvious win for me.
And the growth of the newsletter is a good indicator that, yes, people find it valuable.
The newsletter is way bigger than it was before. There are way more subscribers. Now, that's not the only measure of whether it's providing value to people, but people seem to really like it, and it definitely is performing well. And, it takes me 1/15 of the time.
Now, value is not just about the content you deliver, but how you provide value to someone who is just coming into contact with you the first time. So let's look at 2 things, the way jamesclear.com is organized and its SEO strategy. If you go to the website, you're instantly greeted with an offer to get a free chapter of the book. Value. Scroll down and you can get a free 30-day email course to build better habits. Value. While this website started as a blog, there's no longer a classic reverse chronological order blog feed. You click on the article page where you can find all of his articles organized by topic. Value. And if you click on more articles about a topic, it doesn't just send you to a category page, it sends you to a curated guide that serves as both an intro to the topic and links out to all the relevant pages with context. So if we go to productivity, we get an intro to productivity, top strategies to being productive with a short summary and link to the articles that go into more detail, tips to being more productive, books to be more productive, which link to articles James wrote about those books, not just Amazon links, and finally, a list of the rest of the articles on the website relating to productivity, value. Speaking of value, if you've been finding this video insightful and valuable, please hit that subscribe button to get more videos like this one. All right, now back to James Clear. It's not just value he's providing to the reader, it's really good for search engine optimization, or SEO, the second thing I want to talk about. JamesClear.com ranks for lots of highly searched for keywords like habits, self-improvement, goal setting, and 144,000 other keywords. But this didn't accidentally happen. This was all part of James's strategy from the start, back in 2012. Remember Passive Panda, his first website that got a little bit of traction? In an article he wrote for American Express, James laid out 5 tactics he used to grow Passive Panda, one of which included SEO. James says, quote, "If you can rank number 1 in Google for a popular phrase, then the big G will send all sorts of visitors your way," end quote. So here's how he used SEO. He targeted highly searched for top-of-funnel keywords around habits and self-improvement and other words in that category. This is key for getting discovered. If we look at a marketing funnel of people coming in and then signing up for a newsletter or purchasing a product of yours, these popular keywords are vital for people who have no idea who you are and they are able to discover you. Bottom of the funnel keywords would be things like James Clear or Atomic Habits. People who are searching for that, they're already familiar with you and your work. And also remember those guides that I just mentioned that introduce you to a category and link out to all of the pages about that topic. Those are called content pillars, and they're really helpful for Google because you're saying, hey, this page is about productivity, and every other page that I link out to is also about productivity. And if all of those pages are linked between each other, this is what's called a content cluster, and it helps Google index your pages and understand that, hey, all of these pages are related to each other and they all are about this specific topic, and that in turn leads to higher rankings. And the best part of all of this is every article you put out is one more entry point for people to find you, and it'll keep working for you long into the future without having to pay $1.
A blog post that you wrote 10 years ago is still getting traffic today, is still serving you today, is still getting you opt-ins today for your newsletter.
Running an analysis on JamesClear.com in Ahrefs, according to their estimate, if he were to pay for ads on Google to get all of the traffic that he's getting from all the keywords that he's ranking for, it would cost over $250,000 a month. But again, he gets it all for free, not paying a dime. So we've got consistent content coming out and providing value, which is bringing in lots of traffic to the website. This leads to the last growth playbook theme, optimization.
His popular blog gets 2 million visits a month.
So the website is getting all this traffic. Let's look at how James optimizes the website to convert these visitors into newsletter subscribers, and how he's building out his flywheel of content to continue to fuel his growth. Now, when it comes to the website, it's very obvious that there's only one goal: get your email address. There's no shortage of email sign-up forms. And again, if we go back to his Passive Panda days, when he wrote another article about reasons why your website isn't performing as well as it could, one of the reasons James said was, quote, "You don't have enough opt-in forms on your website," end quote. So we already covered the email capture form that you see if you go to the home page and you get an offer for a free chapter. Now, if you land on any of his individual article pages, you immediately get a full screen email pop-up. Now, normally if a website is using these types of pop-ups, you might see them after a 5-second delay or if you try to leave the site, but James's pop-up happens immediately. As soon as you land on there, the thing pops up, a full screen offer to, hey, give us your email address, before you even can have a chance to scroll through the article. And the pop-ups actually alternate between 2 different call to actions, which I'm sure he's testing and modifying to see which one converts better. Other opt-in forms that we'll find on the website: banner bar, above the fold, footer. Like I said, the website has one goal: get your email, which highlights another important point. Make sure you focus and prioritize the one thing. For James, that's obviously email, but in a conversation that he had with another popular writer and podcaster, Tim Ferriss, Ferriss's website does not have a clear goal. It's too split between subscribe to the podcast and subscribe to the newsletter.
I feel like the only primary difference is you emphasize the podcast as your like number one, and I emphasize email as like my number one.
Yep.
And something has to lead the day.
Spoiler, email should be the number one thing.
Every time I think about it sensibly, email is the most important, because you can share the podcast much more easily via email than you can can share the newsletter via podcast.
So we've focused a lot on just jamesclear.com, but let's expand out to how he's tapping into additional channels to help market his content.
The way that I've grown is by spending just as much time on strategy and marketing as I do on the content creation.
James has admitted to not focusing much effort on many platforms except Twitter and Instagram. With Instagram, there's the same goal of provide value and drive people to the website to convert to email subscribers.
Of the top 5 ways that we drive email subscribers, Instagram is one of them. And the reason is because a lot of the posts have links at the bottom that encourage people to sign up for 321, or they mention the newsletter in the caption.
With Twitter, the direction reverses, where James gets email subscribers to post and share ideas that resonated with them on Twitter.
And I do it the other way as well. Like when I send out a newsletter, sometimes if the ideas are short enough and they would make a good tweet, I'll include a little link under each idea and just say click to tweet. And so now the newsletter is driving action on Twitter.
And no surprise here, that was also another tactic that came out of James's Passive Panda days.
And so I try to get those things to work together and like cross-link between the two, and then they can start to build each other.
So with each new article published, with each new newsletter sent, with each tweet and Instagram post, James is growing a flywheel of content that keeps bringing in more and more people to his newsletter because of that central focus.
You create this little spider web, this kind of ecosystem where everything is kind of driving each other. And, it all kind of grows together.
And it continues building and compounding for him far into the future without having to spend any money. So let's recap James Clear's 3-part growth playbook. Number 1, consistency. Find a format you can stick to and consistently publish. The early work you do is extremely important, and create work that compounds over time by focusing on evergreen and universal topics. Number 2, value. Provide value. Give way more value than you ask for. Focus on top of funnel keywords to get discovered by people who don't know about you or your business. Structure the information on your website to answer questions, which provides value. And 3, optimization. Focus on the one thing, which in this case is collect emails, have plenty of opt-in forms, which are testing different call to actions, and build out a content flywheel on other platforms that still drive people back to that one goal, which in this case is collecting emails. All right, and that is the breakdown. Thank you for watching. We've got more marketing breakdowns like this coming out, so be sure to hit that subscribe button. I would love to know what you think about this. Let me know your thoughts of this breakdown and what else you would like to see down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next episode.